Hey, what's up everyone? As you can see, I've got a couple Scorches here in the living room. I thought I'd do a quick comparison of the small versus the medium, since the small is becoming available, and I've been getting some questions from people who are kind of between the two sizes, wondering which way they should go. It's been a little bit rainy and cold out, and I've been mending a shoulder injury, so we had my wife's boat in here getting it outfitted, and I brought mine in to do the Backband Hack. I thought I'd go ahead and throw them both side by side. Normally, if I'm working with a single boat, I just use these folding racks, which are really nice. We'll start up in the bow. I'll get into spec in a little bit here, but you can definitely see that the small is a narrower boat than the medium. It also has a little bit less bow rocker, but it does still have that kind of flat profile you can see, which is kind of unique to the Scorch compared to like the Code and my Goat. It's a little harder to see with this color, but it is flat through here to about right here, and then it starts curving. And then we'll take a look back here at the stern, and I tried to line the two up from the back of the cockpit combing as close as I could. One of the things I had read about was that they kind of made the small a unique boat. They didn't just scale everything down, and that does show. I would say that the stern is sharper, kind of narrower, and it sits a bit lower. That's looking at them about straight. So when I'm looking at it with my eyes, the medium stern definitely sits a bit higher up and obviously has more volume. My medium over here is a 2021, and this is the UK limited edition color that they called Solar Flare, kind of the old school Pyranha orange and yellow. They started by putting the logos on the side, and then once they brought the X out, they put the logo on the top, which I think is really cool, and they're doing that now for all of the new boats that came out. And then this color is called Smoking Gecko. It's almost like a avocado green, but with a little bit brighter and with kind of some neon to it, with the kind of blue teal grab handles. Then they also do a new color called Fire Ant, which is kind of a orangey color that also has this dark gray. This is not black, it's like a really dark gray. And then they do one that's called Red Rock, and that one's red with this dark gray, and that one has really nice, really cool gold grab handles on it. If you've seen my other video, I'll throw it in the description. You know that Pyranha had some issues with the drain plugs, a lot of leaking there. So if you have like a 2021 boat, I would recommend you take a look, because both my Ozone and my Scorch were leaking like crazy through there. So I just popped these out and put some new sealant in there. You can use Aqua Seal or silicone. They look like they definitely are trying to fix that now, because this one has a ton of sealant all the way around it. When I pulled these off, there was just the littlest bit. In fact, it didn't even go all the way around the circle, like part of it was open. I have sat in this boat. I didn't paddle the small when we had the demo out, and just for comparison, I'm about 6 foot, about 140 pounds with a 31-inch inseam. Seems like I fit fine in the small, and I've not really had an issue with the medium. I'm probably technically between the two. It's kind of going to be a matter of personal preference. If you're really high in the weight range, I think you might find the Scorch to be a little bit too sporty, where the edges are going to be constantly engaged. So you can kind of go either way depending on what you're looking for out of your boat. Looking at the spec, the small Scorch is 8'6", where the medium is 8'10" in length. The small Scorch is 24.5 inches wide. The medium's 25. As far as volume goes, the small is 70 gallons and the medium jumps up to 82. So quite a bit of difference there. The small Scorch boat weight is 46 pounds, although we weighed my wife's. I've got a hanging digital scale, and it came in just over 44 pounds. It was 44 pounds, 6 ounces. So that's pretty cool, almost 2 pounds lighter than spec. The medium is 50 pounds, and that's exactly what it weighed. And then for recommended paddler weight, the small is 88 to 165 pounds, and the medium is 145 to 200. One of the things I like to do is look at the midpoint of the weight range, and for the small Scorch, that's 127 pounds, and for the medium, that's 173. So it's useful, in my opinion, to think about like, where are you compared to that midpoint? Are you above it? Are you below it? Are you way above it or below it? If you're far from the midpoint, then you need to start looking at the extremes, like are you within 5 or 10 pounds of the top or bottom of the weight range? That's gonna really affect how that boat performs for you. Like in the medium, I'm really technically not even into the weight range. So it's a pretty forgiving boat. And like when I had it out on the Illinois for multi-day, it did really well, even with 20 pounds of gear in it. Cause even then I'm just getting up near the midpoint of the weight range. Now, one other thing I'd like to touch on is how this compares to the small Machno. I mentioned that I used to paddle that, and my wife did as well. It's more of a small medium. So looking at the Machno spec compared to the Scorch, the Machno is 1 inch shorter at 8'5", but it's 1.5 inches wider at 26 inches, so quite wide. Obviously it's a different hull too, it's more of a displacement hull. The boat weighs 44 pounds, which like I said in the small Scorch here is what this one actually ended up weighing. It has 73 gallons of volume, so that's 3 more than the small Scorch. And then the paddler weight range is 99 to 176 with a mid of 138. So it's about 11 pounds more for the mid of the weight range. So definitely a little bit larger, and that's how a lot of people found it. I know a lot of smaller paddlers had really high hopes for that boat before it came out and were kind of disappointed that they didn't make a true small. But I think here with the small Scorch, that's really what we've gotten. I think the size range seems pretty true. The large is actually one of the smaller larges by spec of the high performance creek boats that are out right now. The medium seems like a true medium, and the small seems like a true small. I wanted to show everybody, this is the larger foot pods. You know, if you're really pulling your foot brace back quite a bit, it can create a large gap around it. If you've got more than like 2.5 inches of gap, Josh recommended the large pod in that case. If you don't, you're really fine without it. The foam will fill the space around it. All right, so let's take a quick look at the Backband Hack. I'd been familiar with this for a while, but Wade's video does a great job of laying it out, so I'll put a link to that in the description. All the details on how to do it. You're essentially putting these 2 tubular webbing loops in there, and they're held by the seat bolts. You can do just 1. I just did 2 to kind of help distribute the load a little bit from this. And then I've got the hip pad strap going over it in the back, which is nice because when you tighten it up, it really kind of pulls it in. After I did it, I switched back to the traditional spot, which is to put it through the holes in the seat itself, and then switched back over again just so I could sit in it like back to back, try to do a side-by-side comparison. And it definitely makes a big difference. So it puts it, I don't know, maybe 1.5 inches, I'd say that is, higher up on your back. It felt to me more like the backband height of a Waka, and yet it was still more flexible than the Waka, because the Waka to me feels almost like too rigid. And Pyranha also has a lower deck height. So to me, it's kind of the best of both worlds. It sits up high, but it's still flexible, and you've still got that low deck height for hip movement and making rolls really easy. And if you ever put it in there and then you didn't like it, it's super easy. You can just leave them in place and put the seat back down to the lower position. I am going to be doing an outfitting shootout video, so keep an eye out for that one. I've got hookers in this boat. I've got 2-inch knee blocks put in there, and then I've also got kind of a custom heel support up front in that boat, so really comfortable. I'm currently running 2 seat shims underneath. And then the other thing I wanted to mention is that I am going to be doing a comparison with the Scorch and the Code. My Code should be coming in this week, and once I've had some seat time in that, I will put out a review. I've paddled one once, just a single lap during a demo event. Yeah, once I get some more seat time in it, I'll do a more thorough comparison between the two. All right, thanks for watching, everybody.